Thank you very much. Joining me now is New York Republican Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, who was at the hearing today. Congresswoman, good to see you. By the way, were there an equal number of Democrats as Republicans at the hearing?
Unfortunately, there were no Democrats that wished to participate. It's interesting because we were pushing the select subcommittee, which is run by Majority Whip Clyburn, to host this type of event where we would be bringing in individuals to get to the bottom of the origins, and they refused to do so. And so, we had no choice but to take the matters in our own hands and bring together our own expert witnesses to try to find some additional information to see what we can determine, because it seems that the mounting evidence, and even more so after today's hearing, is that this did evolve from the laboratory. Even going back to 2012, where there were Chinese miners that were in a bat-infested cave, they came down with symptoms that were very similar to COVID, and then that virus was taken to the lab, and we know that various mutations occurred, and there's just too much evidence that just shows that this occurred from the lab.
Well, Congresswoman, I just don't want to get beyond that first question, though. I don't understand how not a single Democrat would be uninterested in getting to the root of how this COVID virus began, and whether or not the Chinese were responsible for releasing a pandemic that has killed millions of people. Isn't that alone an extraordinary fact that there was not a single Democrat present there?
Yeah, absolutely, and that they've refused to hold their own hearing to determine this. This is not a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. It's an issue of 600,000 American lives that were lost, 4 million worldwide. And so we really believe that the Democrats should be a part of this, and we should be looking to determine the origins, not only to hold China and the Communist Party accountable, but to also prevent this from happening in the future. And the only way we're going to do that is determining how did this occur. I think one of the important questions here is how American funding was used at the Wuhan lab. We know that the NIH has sent money over to the Wuhan lab, and was it for this particular gain of function research? We know that also the Chinese military, we believe, participates in research in that laboratory. So did our tax dollars, were they used to actually support research being done by the Chinese communist military, which would be completely outrageous?
There's no doubt, is there, that some of our money through Dr. Fauci's associates, the EcoHealth Alliance, that dealt with the Wuhan lab directly, the EcoHealth Alliance got $3.7 million, so we already know that there were people working directly with the Wuhan lab who were defending the Wuhan lab and their research, I think continue to defend the lab, who were getting tax dollars, and Dr. Fauci didn't want to cut the funds to them. He had to be forced, his arm had to be twisted by President Trump to stop that funding, correct?
That's correct. And also, one of the other things that came out of this hearing were, there were 3 American physicians that were career physicians within HHS that were recommended by the Trump administration to be part of the investigation team at the World Health Organization, but instead they chose someone who was not authorized by the American government, and that was the head of EcoHealth as the only American physician to participate in that research team. So it really brings about a lot of questions about why only him. Number 2, why the World Health Organization really did the bidding of the Communist Chinese Party, even allowing them to edit the final report of the findings. So I think that the world's community really needs to join us here in demanding answers.
Well, forget the world community. I mean, the Democrats have to join you. I mean, you're doing the yeoman's work. Is there any? We have to run. I'm getting the call from producers, but I need to know: is anybody from the Biden administration interested in these hearings? Are you communicating with the Biden administration to let them know what you found?
Unfortunately, they've shown little interest, and in fact, the report that he's going to be putting out in 90 days from the day he announced it, he says they don't expect anything substantial coming from that report. It seems that there's a lot happening here in which they're looking to work alongside, I guess, the Communist Chinese Party to do a cover-up, as opposed to letting the American people know the origins of this virus. And I think that that is something that the American people need to hold the Democrats accountable for.
It's something that we all should be working together together to get to the root
Absolutely.
of, because this could happen again. And given the record of the Chinese, it has happened before. There have been other viruses that have escaped from labs. So we want to prevent it from happening again. It's that simple. It's not a partisan issue, or it shouldn't be. Congresswoman Malliotakis, good to see you again. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, apprehension.